Sometimes we get into this lull of, and we're all excited about spring game now and the spring football, but as it gets closer, it's just like, yeah, this game doesn't really matter and we're not really going to get anything from it. But there's been some fun spring game memories over the years, so I wanted to get us ready for that. And of course, there's a pretty good way to get you in the mood for some Husker football talk. We're talking about the spring game. We'll just get the music rolling, blaring there for a second. As we open this up. There are some that didn't quite make the list, including my 12-yard touchdown run as a child while I was out there for the halftime show of Dare. Did you go to the spring games when you were a kid?
I went to one spring game when I was in middle school, but I went with the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, did they have the Dare halftime show?
No.
When I was a kid, they used to, it seemed like yearly. I don't know how long they did it, but if you remember Dare, you would pledge not to do drugs and alcohol, and you'd go on the field. And
As we all did.
As we all do.
And we all lied.
And yeah, most of us lied.
No, we all lied.
But
it's
either
okay.
way, we got on the field and we had fun. And so I think they should bring back those Dare halftime things. I think that was kind of fun.
The kids would just lie.
I like entertainment, but yeah, either way, kids get on the field. I think that was fun. One that didn't quite make it as I was looking up some things here. The 2000 spring game ended in a 21-21 tie. It was the first time the spring game ended in a tie since 1950. How upset would you be by a tie at the spring game?
It's ridiculous, but it's a spring game, so it doesn't matter.
I know. You're in a weird situation there where it's like, do we go to overtime? It's a practice.
No, we don't.
Can we? Can you
go
to overtime?
You know what they should have done? A kickoff.
That's what they should do.
They should have, the field goal kickoff.
Yeah. So hopefully they've got some sort of plan if it comes into a tie. All right, let's get into the top 10 our spring game memories. This one actually even predates me a little bit. So if there are better memories from beyond, we'd like you guys to share them too.
Yeah, this is for you guys as well.
Yeah.
402-464-5685, Starter Heyman text line, Honda of Lincoln hotline, and Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You guys can comment on there. Give us your favorite spring game memories.
Yeah, and I should have asked these guys, and I will on the captain tomorrow ask about the 1995 spring game because that comes in 10th for me. We always say, sometimes the spring game stars don't really turn into anything, and so that's why you don't want to read too much into the spring game. Well, in 1995, the spring game star was a transfer by the name of Scott Frost, who had 3 touchdown passes. He was quoted at the end of the game saying, "I can't tell you how great it is playing in front of fans where 40,000 people show up for a spring scrimmage. We didn't have that many people at half our home games last year," as he was talking, going over there from Stanford. Mm-hmm. Tommy Frazier also had an 80-yard completion to Reggie Ball, which tied for the record for the longest touchdown pass, so a little bit of entertainment there as well.
That Scott Frost guy didn't turn out to be much of a quarterback, did he?
He did all right. I think he won a national championship.
He did okay at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Spring game stars, not much.
Yeah. Sometimes they turn out to be pretty good.
Whatever.
This is the most memorable, not necessarily my most favorite list. So number 9 on my list, I don't think I'll ever forget the two-hand touch football that we had last year. It's not going to be on anybody's favorite, but if we talk about most memorable, we talked to former Huskers that maybe haven't been paying attention. When we tell them that they played two-hand touch football, they're just
disgusted.
They're disgusted and just shocked that would happen at a spring game.
But remember Anthony Grant's really long touchdown?
Yes.
And everybody's like, well, he would have gotten taken down if they were actually tackling.
Yeah.
And then turns out he was actually really good.
Yeah, he was. He was pretty darn good. So
didn't get 1,000 yards,
I think
but it was super close.
That was part of it. Was like that was a good run. But he might have been tackled.
But he might have been tackled.
Or at least, attempted to be tackled.
But then, sure enough, the first couple games of the season, he's met in the backfield every time he touches the ball. Didn't have a negative rush for the longest time.
Yeah. The end of the year.
So that play was pretty much, significant of the first half of the season for Anthony Grant. Get met in the backfield, break the tackle, and go for positive yardage.
That was the moment of last year's spring game. The moment of the two-hand touch spring game. So hopefully we'll remember that 10 years from now when I make another list with two-hand touch football.
Hopefully it's not on your list anymore because we have better spring game memories.
Yeah. Number 8 on my list, another one that is, again, very memorable, but not a great performance because there was no game. It got rained out in 2012. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
But I'll never forget it because I walked from the Russian bottoms, and it was just drenched. Me and the person I went with, everybody was huddling as much as they could inside Memorial Stadium, and it was just like, there's no way they can play this game today. They eventually call it off. The only redeeming quality of it was they had a bunch of Runzas and Valentino's pizza. They said, just everybody get Runzas and Valentino's pizza and get out of here. And we did, and it was pouring on us. But that was a very memorable spring game. Hopefully not the one that we see this year, but
hopefully we actually get a spring game.
Yeah.
But, if they want to give out Runzas and Valentinos, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yes, that was the redeeming quality of that, was we did get free Runzas
A rained-out spring game.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You would think, because if that's, like, a game is going to be played.
Right.
But you're not going to play the spring game.
And I don't know, because you get 15 practices. That's what's allowed by the
one of
NCAA. You don't just want to give up the practice. So I don't know if they, met for another practice.
They probably had their own indoor. They probably did it indoor.
Yeah.
Just no fans.
Yeah. So that was kind of sad. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because we all look forward to the spring game. Number 7 on my list was 2015. Not for necessarily anything on the field, but this was memorable because Greg McMullen, who was one of the leading defensive players that year, actually left the team. He was his status was up in the air for the week leading up to the spring game. He let the team know before the game, and so everybody just kind of thought, okay, well, this is what it is, and everybody knows the situation. Mark Banker was asked about it afterwards. Here's what Mark Banker had to say.
On the defensive line, news from Greg McMullen, I guess, a little bit, knowing what he's done and the decision he's made. What can you say about his job?
I don't know. What has he done and what's his decision?
McMullen, I guess, won't be returning. Knowing that, I guess, what he's contributed, what can you say about his body of work?
I really don't have much to say, The big thing here is the guys that we have, in front of us here. Because I'm not aware, to be perfectly honest with you. I haven't had a conversation with them, and that was news to me as far as any kind of a decision. So I don't really have a comment to make on it. I apologize for that.
So let's see, the level of communication on that Riley staff, not always best, because I thought
he's
it was
gone?
hilarious. Yeah, it was like everybody went through the spring game. That was like the story of the day.
Yeah.
And you approach Mark Banker, the defensive coordinator.
Yep, the guy who's supposed to know this.
Yeah, this is supposed to be one of his best players going into the year, and he has to be alerted of it by the reporters after the game.
He's gone? Interesting.
I was like,
Well, I got nothing.
Yeah,
thanks for
really don't have
breaking
much
that
to
news
say.
to me.
Yeah.
That is news to me.
So again, sometimes it surprises you, the lack of communication on coaching staffs. That was kind of a little bit of an eye opener for me, though they did have a pretty decent year as far as the Riley tenure goes in 2015. All right,
people are letting us know. Chase B says Scott Frost's first home game was rained out, and I was going to say it was lightning out.
That's right, it was.
And somebody says the 2012 spring game was called off because of major lightning storms. Also, not
lightning.
just the rain.
Yeah. Well,
Shout out to lightning.
I know it was coming down.
Yeah,
though.
they would have played in the rain.
Yeah.
They'd have been like, it's whatever. It's fine. They probably would have been more careful to make sure there were no injuries, but they would have played in the rain. But lightning, you don't play in that.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the lightning.
Shout out to Akron for leaving.
And those that believe that
wasn't Nebraska going to play the next day? Like, wasn't that a plan that was in talks? And then Akron was like, you know what? No.
Yeah, it didn't work for Akron's schedule. That's right.
Like, we're leaving tonight. I don't know what your idea is.
And it's crazy because people will still argue that maybe that would change the Scott Frost era. I don't think so.
Well,
maybe they wouldn't have been 0-6, but they probably would have been. That
would have been the first true game for Adrian Martinez. He would have got his feet under him, and then he would have gone into Colorado, and it would have been great. And and not hurt, and then things would have been fantastic from there on out.
Well, here's what my guess would be, is that they would look really good, and then something would happen down the stretch, and they'd find a way to lose it, because that's what happened every other time Scott Frost coached a game in
perfect.
So that would be my guess.
So we would have just got an earlier dose of it.
That's right. Number 6 on my list, most memorable moments from the spring game, was in 2005 when quarterback Zach Taylor threw a spring game record 357 yards in a 42-14 win. This was in front of a record crowd then of 63,416 people. The maybe more interesting behind that was Joe Daly, the returning starter, was 4th on the depth chart at that point. He started for the opposite team. He was behind Zach Taylor, of course, Bo Davis, and freshman Joe Gans. After the game, he gave his Billy C comment, which is not a great way to just in any way acknowledge your head coach, calling him Billy C, who was Bill Callahan, and would transfer the Monday after the spring game. So very memorable to me that it was kind of the falling of Joe Daly. and the welcoming of Zach Taylor. All right, number 5 on my list, most memorable spring game performances. How about Bobby Newcomb's 91-yard run in the 1998 spring game? Of course, this was the first spring game post-Tom Osborne. And, of course, and the other thing is you had the quarterback battle between Newcomb and Crouch that really heated up in 99. But 98, it was interesting as well. So that was just anytime you can bring up Newcomb versus Crouch, that's like a camp battle, not just locally known, but for college football fans, they understand that's a quarterback battle. So that was very memorable. The number 4 on my list, the most memorable spring game memories. How about Jamal Turner's flip into the end zone in 2011? Looked like he was the hot freshman recruit on campus.
That's the one.
And we were looking for the next Deshaun Jackson. The flip looked like a Deshaun Jackson-like flip.
Here we go.
Jamal Turner was going to be Deshaun Jackson.
And he wasn't.
Still got the winning touchdown against Michigan State that one year.
Oft injured Jamal Turner.
Yes.
When he was healthy, he was great, though.
He had some of the most exciting. I don't mean this in a rude way. Like, he had very exciting, 7-yard runs.
Oh yeah.
He never was really quite able to break the big plays.
He was always just one step.
Yeah.
Away from having that big play, and everybody knew it. That's why the 7 yards, you're like, oh, here it is, and then he tackled.
And the other intrigue of it for 2011 is, remember, he came in as a quarterback, and he came in as a quarterback saying that he could compete with Taylor Martinez. So basically, he thought he was a better quarterback than Taylor Martinez. And in 2010, Taylor Martinez early in the year looked like a Heisman candidate. So those were big words.
Okay.
So the Jamal Turner hype was real in 2011, and that's why it's so high on my list. Going from kind of a high note to a bit of a somber one, big moment in the 1996 spring game. They played this 2 days after the passing of Brooke Berringer. So it was a very somber atmosphere. They had a 3.5-minute film devoted to Berringer that was shown on the stadium screens. And they even had a player, Jeff Perino, actually, who was wearing number 18. He switched to number 5 for that game out of respect. And I obviously I was too young to kind of take this all in as a 6-year-old, but that's part of the Husker story, obviously, in that time, and that'd be crazy to think of playing a spring game in those circumstances.
That is very close proximity in terms of that happening and playing the spring game.
Yeah. So that's certainly memorable for those that were there. Number 2 on my list, most memorable spring game memories.
You gotta count it.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was. What happened?
That's not what I was going for.
Oh my goodness.
Let's try at the
I'm
end
so
here.
scared.
Oh, there he is, a cat.
Meow.
I didn't quite get the audio there, but you hear a meow. And obviously, one of the biggest memories in spring game history was 2014 when Bo Pelini lifted the cat out of the gate.
And a shout out to Fo Pelini.
That's right.
Bo Pelini coming out with the cat. Nebraska hopefully having a great year. Had another 9-win season.
And that's my spring game philosophy, is based off that 2014 game. Bring in as much entertainment as you can. It wasn't just
a spring game.
Well, it just wasn't the cat that day. They had the offense versus the defense instead of your typical red versus white.
Yep.
They had Kenny Bell taking on Bo Pelini in field goal competition.
I like the offense-defense where the defense can score points for certain things. I liked that.
Yeah, that's a little more interesting than red and white and nobody cares who wins.
Yeah. Well, because then people switch sides, and they're like, okay, we need you to move over to the white side, we need you to do the red side, blah, blah, blah.
You don't even really know who wins, but they had, offensive linemen catching punts, or fielding punts.
Perfect.
I mean, it was just a lot of entertainment that I think they need to go back to. Of course, the number one moment, I think you guys probably know what this one is of the most memorable spring game memories.
It is Jack Hoffman of Team Jack coming out on the field right now in this 4th down and short. Jack Hoffman, who's been adopted really by this football team, a young man who has battled brain cancer, is on the field right now for the Huskers.
One more snap for Taylor Martinez, too, who will hand it off to Jack.
So Taylor gets the shotgun set, gives it to Jack. Here he goes. He's got blockers out in front.
There he goes.
He's running to midfield. Listen to this crowd as Jack Hoffman, the young man that as I mentioned, has really been adopted by this football team. Just scored a touchdown.
So there you have it. Jack Hoffman's big run in the 2013 spring game. The play went viral and went on to win the best moment at the ESPY Awards. What a great moment it was. And unfortunately, I did my spring game thing where it's like, I saw enough and I left. Not before the Jack Hoffman thing. Yeah. Like 10 minutes before the Jack Hoffman run, I was like, I don't think there's really much to see here. Some backups. And,
not part of the crowd.
Pretty much and I left.
Wow.
So,
Bakoven.
I was a little disappointed.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, I could have been there for the ESPY moment of the year.
You could have accepted the ESPY.
Yeah.
You could have said, I was part of an ESPY moment.
And I was actually at the end zone. I remember sitting there, too. I was at that end zone. So it's part of my...
Oh, you would have been right there.
Yeah.
Dang, Bob.
That's one of the moments that I wish that I would have stayed for. Another one that I remember that I wasn't even at the game, but I just missed watching on TV because I actually had to run here and do something for the Stars. But like the end of the Northwestern, the Hail Mary thing, I did not see that live because I was headed here and I was like, I thought if anything, I listened on the radio. I was like, if anything, this is going to overtime or like they're barely maybe going to kick a field goal or something. Yep. I don't remember what the situation was, but.
That hurts, man.
Yeah, there's
missing
some
big moments. I watched that on TV, so
yeah,
I've got that.
Yeah, I wish I would have because that really only happens once.
Yeah. I was at the Northwestern game where they lost in overtime, so that one sucks. But fun times.
Yeah,
fun times at the spring game. You didn't include the video game one.
Oh, I should have.
The 2020 COVID no spring game.
Absolutely.
Let's do it on the video game and have build up the rosters and have former players on the teams.
You have spring game memories too. I forgot that one. That should have been in the top 10.
That was a great one.
That was a great one.
It was terrible.
I didn't watch it. But the concept.
It was a good idea.
And for us video game fans, it was cool.